Welcome to Author's Corner, Discovering Diversity Publishing's podcast, where we get to meet authors where they are and find out who they are. I'm your host, Sheena Blake, CEO of Discovering Diversity Publishing. I'm pumped. Let's just get started. Welcome back to another episode of Author's Corner from DDP's podcast. We are here with 10-10-10 at Onyx Barbers today. It is Sunday, and I have sitting with me the Kelvin Gumbs of Black Sun, The Longest Night, and I have Lowell and Kurt here from Onyx Barbers, and I am so excited. Not just because I get to sit around a whole bunch of handsome men who do brilliant things in this world, but because we get to have some conversations today that probably have not been had. So before we get into the podcast, I want Kelvin to give us a little background about why he writes and what his book is really about.
Okay, thanks. My name is Kelvin. My brief introduction is I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm an author and an illustrator, and I own a publishing company named Black Sun Comics, and of course I've written a graphic novel called Black Sun, The Longest Night. It's African-centered science fiction and fantasy, and the reason why I wrote it is because to fill a gap in that genre. As a child, I read a lot of science fiction, a lot of fantasy, read comics, the whole thing, but never really saw black representation in the material that I was reading. And then I had my son 4 years ago, and I said, there's no way I'm going to let him go through the same thing that I went through. So in order to change that, it meant I had to step up and do something. So that was the main inspiration behind writing the book. It's just taking all my influences from before and putting it down in a book that is a story that I would have wanted to read when I was younger. And knowing that kids today can read that and benefit from it and see their image reflected in an empowering way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about the comic book itself?
Yep. So up to now, we've been based in reality. So I'm going to take you out of that so you can use your imagination a bit. Yeah, sure. Take your card. Black Sun takes place in an alternate universe. It takes place on a planet named Alkebulan. Alkebulan is a planet that's very much like our Earth in terms of the plant life and vegetation and animal life, almost identical. It's inhabited by people like you and me who are called Alkebulites. And Alkebulan is ruled by the dominating superpower is called the Sama Empire, who rules with a system of justice, meaning the people that need the most help get the most help. And they've been able to maintain peace on the planet for the past 3,000 years. Everything is fine until one day out of the blue, they're attacked. This battleship materializes out of nowhere and starts destroying everything in its path. No one knows why they're there, no one knows who this alien army is, and most importantly, no one knows how to stop them. So it's basically, the overarching story is about the survivors of this alien invasion and what they have to do in order to reclaim their homeland.
It really is the coolest book.
That sounds very interesting.
It really is the coolest book ever.
Thank you.
Okay, so actually I'm going to come back to you.
Yes.
I'm going to have Lowell and Kurt tell us a little bit more about Onyx Barbers, what it is you guys do here other than cut hair, what it is about yourselves that you really want to share today.
What do we do? My name is Kurt Teller. When you ask that question, the first thing I thought of is teach and preach. I think we do a bit of both, sometimes a lot of both. And people think they're walking into a barbershop where they're going to get a haircut. And this barbershop, I can't speak on all, but this one is definitely more than just a haircut. You know, you're really walking into a place where you're going to experience a lot, and you're definitely going to learn a lot and probably be inspired by a lot. So sometimes I don't even want to call it a barbershop.
Yeah.
And maybe in the future we won't. But
what would you call it?
That is the secret on the table right now. You have to stay tuned.
I know.
But yeah, it's definitely a lot of teaching, a lot of preaching.
Yeah, I'm Lowell Stevens, co-owner of Onyx Barbers, and to add what Kurt said, we are definitely a different experience than most other barbershops. What we try to have taking place in our shop is a lot of positivity, a lot of learning. So we want to go with the concept of cut and learn. That's what we're doing almost on a daily basis. And
Well, what does that look like, though?
well, I mean, we've actually garnered our marketing strategy to having children come in for free, and that way we get to talk to them at earlier stages in life about career options, about what graduating looks like, how easy it can be, instead of taking the status quo of, okay, it's going to be hard and maybe you can get by and stuff like that. We want them to have a different experience when they're going through life. So while they're getting their cut, we're instilling some of these ideas and theories about how to become a comic book developer, or how to own your own business, and why graduating shouldn't be the hardest thing in the world. You know what I mean? Like, these things are just things that we now understand in hindsight now, that it doesn't have to be this rigid road to success. Despite the fact that we're having our own obstacles in starting a business that's never been done before, we know that with the help of our resources that we didn't know we had, but how we do, and the energy that we're putting out there, it allows us to accomplish this task a lot easier than doing it on your own, basically.
Absolutely.
You know what? I have to interject because I definitely know that there's people listening that heard Lowell say starting a business that's never been done before, and they're probably wondering, what is he talking about? It's a barbershop. Of course that's been done before. But I just want to let you know that people might not realize it right now, but very slowly and near to the future, this business is going to become something that people have never seen before in a barbershop. The way we're run, the feeling that you get when you walk in, you're gonna have to experience it. But when you do, you're gonna look back and say, "Wow, now I know what he's talking about by starting a business that's never been done before."
So good. At all of the locations we've been at for 10-10-10, I've been so thoroughly surprised and impressed and grateful, because they're all so cool and you guys are really awesome. I'm really, really glad to be here. Okay, so now is the time. Now is the point of 10-10-10. Beyond the collaboration, it's about the conversation. So, listeners, I know you've heard the other podcasts, and so this is really exciting because all of the authors have been not pleased with me for not giving them something they should talk about. I'm okay with this. We've left it open on purpose because all the time we are told exactly where we need to be, what we need to do, how long it needs to be, and the reasons that we're doing it. But the reason for 10-10-10 is to allow each author the space and give the platform for them to talk about whatever it is they feel that needs to be talked about right now. So, without further ado, Kelvin.
I feel so on the spot.
Well, I'll tell you what. Okay, this is Kirk again, and I usually like to play devil's advocate. So,
No, I'm in trouble now.
no, just to start things off, I know Kelvin mentioned that, he gave the nice reason why he started a comic book with all black characters, but what I really want to know is, are you racist?
And what does this even mean?
No, I'm not racist. Let me put some explanation behind that. First of all, in the context of this society, it's not possible for a black person to be racist.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Racism is prejudice plus the power to enact your prejudice on another group of people. And black people at this point in time do not have that kind of power to negatively affect anyone, really. So, no, I'm not racist. That goes into another thing that sometimes I get, is making a comic book about all black characters, is that divisive? No, because I can't divide what's already been divided. I spent my whole life reading comics with very tokenized black characters. And I wasn't happy with that. So I wanted to do something different. So to answer your overall question, no, I'm not racist. And is it divisive? No, it's not. It's inclusive because it's including the larger African diaspora into something that reflects and exalts their image.
Right.
Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, good.
That's pretty good.
That's perfect.
I love how you guys are with the Yeti. It's great.
You know what? I'm really at a loss. I came here thinking I was going to talk about Afrofuturism.
To talk about Afrofuturism, please.
You know what? Sorry, I'm just moving the mic. You have to talk about that because I have no idea what that is.
My phone. I need to grab my phone. So Afrofuturism is a term that I didn't discover until a few years ago when someone said, "Oh, what you're doing is Afrofuturism." I'm like, "Well, what's that? I don't know." So I looked it up on Wikipedia. That's where everyone goes, and I'm gonna read this, and you can tell me if it makes sense to you. So Afrofuturism is a cultural aesthetic, philosophy of science, and philosophy of history that combines elements of science fiction, historical fiction, fantasy, Afrocentrism, and magic realism with non-Western cosmologies in order to critique not only the present-day dilemmas of black people, but to revise, interrogate, and re-examine the historical events of the past. First coined by Mark Derry in 1993 and explored in the late 1990s through conversations led by scholar Alondra Nelson, Afrofuturism addresses themes and concerns of the African diaspora through technoculture and science fiction and a science fiction lens, encompassing a range of media and artists, which are blah, 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 blah. I could go on. Does that make sense to you?
It's a lot of words.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
I'd have to hear that 10 times over for it to make sense to me.
So this was my issue. If someone's saying I'm doing Afrofuturism, I'm like, okay, cool, but I can't really, that doesn't make sense. It's too much.
There's no connection.
Yeah, and I wanted the comic to appeal to younger children. So how do I break that down for someone who's maybe 7 years old and reading this book, right? I don't think they want the whole long definition. So
Definitely not.
yeah, so in my mind, Afrofuturism basically means science fiction that contains predominantly black characters or characters of African descent, either or. I use the two terms interchangeably. Yes, that's me on Instagram. And I lost my train of thought. Science fiction that contains black characters, predominantly black characters in empowering roles.
Instead of like the flaky, like either I'm a complete idiot or I'm like a super gangster.
Yeah, I wanted to move away from those typical stereotypes that we see in Hollywood, because black people are included in those movies. But then I always ask the question, well, why is the black guy there? What's
the thing?
What's he there for? Is he there to laugh at? Is he there to be the bad guy? Is he there to get killed off? Which is what happens in most science fiction movies.
Yeah.
So I'm like, no, I wasn't happy with that. So yeah, Afrofuturism.
So would you say, because I'm actually curious to know what all of you think about this. When we're watching things or reading things that have black characters, where do you find problems with what we're seeing like in 2017 right now, or the things that our kids are watching where we see black characters, or is it not something on your mind at all?
Oh gosh. You're gonna make me talk too much. I have a problem with everything I see in media, like on TV, on the street, everywhere I look. I have a problem with images of black people, and it's a problem because I have children. It wasn't a bigger problem for me before I had children, to be honest.
Of course.
I don't think I even thought about it.
No, we wouldn't.
But now, because I'm watching what my children watch, I'm seeing what they pick up and what they learn, and what's becoming a part of them, and it's driving me nuts.
And all of their generation too.
Exactly.
Like it's not like it's just them isolated. They're like going to school and talking about the ways.
That's right. I mean, it's affected me so much that I had to change where my children go to school. I mean, I switched them out of their schools. I'm thinking about land up north.
Yeah.
Like I just want them to be away from what I feel is killing them, emotionally and mentally.
Yeah.
And it's always on my mind. Always.
Wow.
For me, growing up in a predominantly black school and being told of my heritage and knowing options about black principals and black doctors and black lawyers and as of recent black judges and things like that. Coming from that and then going to a public system that told me that I wasn't allowed to be much hurt me, and then it hurt my it affected me because I started trying to pocket myself in with people that were doing those things that they expect you to do. So whether it be crimes or or playing basketball only, or sports oriented, right. I tried to dance back in the day, but
I think we all do. I know I do.
Right? And now I'm seeing that, the tone of the music industry or entertainment in general is something that they are trying to put black people in and just keep them in there instead of in the sciences and novels or being an author. Like those things, I know that there are spots where people are, pushing the agenda for that with our own kind. It's just that it's not glamorized as much as being a comedian or
And if you want to talk about earning potential or living a fulfilled life, it makes no sense that we push our kids into things like professional sports and entertainment and stuff like that, where a lot of parents are guilty of doing that, like glamorizing. Yeah, they get caught up in it. We forget that if like, what's the goal? You want your kid to make a lot of money? You want your kid to be happy? Those routes aren't the right one. I mean, if okay, for example, if your kid plays basketball, very slim chance you're gonna make the NBA, right? But you have him practicing maybe 2 hours a day, so he could be a good basketball player. Four. And if he makes it to the NBA, he has a career for maybe 4 to 10 years. Then he's 30 years old. He has no other skills. He has a full life ahead of him, and he has a bag of problems. Where that kid could have studied 2 hours a day, became a doctor, lawyer, a specialist, make $500,000 a year till he's 80. What makes more sense?
Exactly.
Even a plumber.
Yeah.
Anything.
Plumber, electrician,
Or just
anything.
like, this is like, so I'm the only lady in the conversation, but like from a mom's perspective, the other day my son said to me, Mom, I'm so glad that you let me be who I am and you don't try to make me be somebody else.
Wow.
So I was like,
wow, that's deep.
like I've been doing it on purpose, but I didn't know that he had the words to articulate something like that. Mm-hmm. But what I'm realizing is that, like, our son plays football and he's like really passionate about football, and he's like, oh, it's like, either I'm going to go to the NBA or the NHL, because he also plays hockey. And I'm like, I don't want to discourage you. If that's what you want, cool. But like, that's not what you have to do. Yeah. You can actually just play this sport, get really strong in your body, learn how to be a disciplined human because you like it, and get really great at it and just enjoy it. Yeah. And I think that's like, I don't know, like, as men, is that like a thing where you're like, I have to be the best one? I don't know if that's a thing.
Well, yeah. I think there's always that competition. There's always competition.
They're all being really quiet.
I gotta interrupt again. This is Kurt. I gotta interrupt again. It's a bloody thing because, like, I'm talking, trying to be nice and everything. I had a conversation with Lowell just the other day about how much it's driving me crazy that my son ain't the best soccer player. and at the end of the game, he had fun playing the game, but in my mind I'm like, hey man, you didn't score no goals. Like, what's going on here? So
I'm like,
So even though I don't want to be like that, it's like, it's a thing by nature. You want to push. You want to be the best, and and if you're not, then something's wrong.
Okay, maybe I'm just too mom.
No, it's funny that you mentioned soccer. My son is 4. He plays soccer too, and when he hears this, he's gonna kill me. But he spent a good part of the game just crying.
She actually just looks at boys.
He was the only one. I'm like, okay, that's my son. Well, yeah, that's what he started doing. He started picking the grass out of the ground. I'm like, what are you doing?
For sure.
Pick the ball.
For sure at that age.
Yeah. Well, one thing I started thinking about with regards to all these pockets of opportunity is, even though you see them going into a sport and they're doing well and excelling at it, what I don't like is that for the most part, even the best star is being abused by the system. He's not. There's some that get to take advantage of the system, but for the
Rarely.
majority of them, they are there, and in a slave-like mentality, they are
That's what they're working for.
working for someone else.
They're shucking and jiving.
Right. Whereas I think they should use that as a platform to do whatever they want to do. So there's a gentleman by the name of Alan Page. He's a football player. And he played for, I think it was the Pittsburgh Steelers. And he did very well. He was defensive, and his family life, they could show him, you know, always trying to get his kids to be thinkers and to, you know, even though he was playing a sport, he was like, listen, you guys got to be academics. You got to think better than the next person. And what he started doing after that was he became the first Supreme Court black male judge
Straight
of
up.
Minnesota. And I said, isn't that amazing? Like that was after his career. So, you know, he took the career. While he was there, he obviously left some prints in people's minds about what he wanted to do and be. And then, as soon as his career was done, he went back to school, finished his law degree, and became a Supreme Court judge. And he was there. He had to leave based on the fact that he was too old. You know what I mean? And I thought that's the kind of legacy that people can't erase. Yeah, you know, you ran a couple yards and stuff like that. Someone's gonna come and break your records. But what have you done to change your society? What have you done to change the footprints for people coming behind you is exactly what, even if it's in the sport. So if you're in the sport and you change some rules to whether it's better contracts or better stipulations on how you're supposed to be playing and things like that, it would be a better outcome. If that were happening, then, you know, you're just going there and getting a $250 million check.
Which is so cool.
Which is
like, you know, ain't nobody mad at that.
Ain't mad at the 250, you know. But that's exactly what I thought was iffy about it.
Yeah, I think it really comes down to the parents and their mindset in regards to raising children. So if the parents take a conscious effort, which it sounds like both of you are doing, to show an alternative, then it means our children can be in a good place to change the overall narrative for themselves.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, here's the thing that, like, I totally didn't know before I had kids, is that they would have their own mind. I didn't know.
They were allowed to?
I thought that they were going to just, like, do what I said.
Yeah.
And then it turned out that they had their own, like, way of, like, presenting in the world and being in the world and existing, and I had to, like, rearrange my thoughts. Like, when my son was a baby, we gave him, I was like, gender is constructed. I'm a women's study and Caribbean studies major, okay? So I'm like, gender is constructed. We're not going to put him in any blues. We're just going to give him neutral colors. Wow. And he only had pine cones and coconuts to play with. I'm so serious. And then one day I put out like, he doesn't even remember. And then one day we put out trucks and dolls to see if like he was going, you know, I'm like, you know what, he's not going to gravitate to any of them because he's going to go play with his pine cone, his coconut, because that's what he's been playing with. And he saw the truck and he lost his mind. Like, what is this? And he started driving it everywhere, making noise, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, what are you doing? So like we flash forward to football where he's like getting hit and brutalized, and I'm like, I have to like take a step back because all of the ideas that I've had as like a woman growing up, as a black woman growing up, I have to put them aside for him to be able to exist properly. But also I have to accept the fact that he has his own ideas of being here that like I didn't think he had. Or like the ways that he like thinks of racism and receives it and projects it. He just like, it's not what I thought or even what we tell him all the time.
Yeah.
And we're like black conscious things all the time, and I find that the two of them, they do things that I'm like, so we were at a lecture the other day. We talk about this at the dinner table, but it's still like, you know, they don't think of it the way we do. And so that's my next thing. Is like, even like, so some of the shows that the kids watch, I think your kids are around my kids' age, and some of the shows they watch are like, even if the protagonist is black, they usually are an idiot, like causing some sort of major malfunctional problem. And so like, I feel like my role is to be like, let's critique this. Like, we can have fun watching it, cool, but we have to break it apart. And they're like, it's not that deep. you know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I want to run them away outside of somewhere, but then where am I going to go?
You know,
Yeah.
Like, you're still going to access the same things. I don't know.
it's tough. It's tough. It's they think it's not that deep. I didn't think it was that deep when I was a child too, and then I grow up and reflect and like, oh, this formed my whole narrative for the world.
Exactly.
It's tough. It's about finding alternatives. Like right now, my son watches a show called Beano and Fino, and it's a cartoon. Yeah, well, it's not well known. It's produced by a Nigerian, and it talks. And it's a brother and sister character. It's a cartoon. Yeah, and it talks about Africa from the perspective. Well, not Africa, Nigeria, from the perspective of someone who lives there. So it's not this outside Eurocentric.
How'd you find that?
I search. I'm constantly searching. It's on YouTube, but you can get DVDs and all that kind of stuff. So right now, that's the only cartoon that I will allow my son to watch. He doesn't know anything else. Like, I'm really strict when it comes to that because I know how much of an influence it has. All the books that he reads are black focused. Well, the vast majority. So they always have black characters. So it all speaks to the subconscious. And if you can drill that in there, then hopefully that will carry with him as he gets older. So
Yeah.
I don't know where it's going with
It
that.
will. It will.
Like, and I'm hearing it, I'm like, you know what, when my kids were small, I homeschooled them, and they weren't allowed to watch TV at all. They didn't
Yeah.
watch anything. What we did, like, in those days, remember the big screen TVs that were like, they had the full back on
Yeah.
them, they weren't flat screens anymore?
Oh,
I
the
remember
floor
those.
models.
Yes. So we used to cover the screen with paper and have them draw their own shows.
Okay,
like,
cool.
You know, whatever their ideas were. And then it was time to go to like off to school or daycare, wherever they were heading. And my son was like, "Mom, the kids keep talking about Bora the Explorer, and I didn't know what to talk about." And I was like, "Oh my God, it's Dora. It's not Bora." And then I realized that, like, okay, is this becoming a new problem? Like, I was trying to make them escape from the problems that, like, I find arising on TV, and then they had these social issues because they didn't know how to communicate. I just don't know.
That's my thing too.
Well, it's funny. I just had the opportunity to talk with a friend I hadn't seen in maybe 20 years. And his mother was the principal of the private school I used to go to, and my mom was a teacher at that school.
Yeah.
And they were best friends. And what they used to make us do, we were talking about this over breakfast, they would make us sit down at the dinner table after dinner. Everyone's eating. They would sit there, and they would have conversations about whatever the social topics were or whatnot. And we would have to sit there and endure their conversations
That's the best.
while the shortwave radio played only classical music, and we had a box of toys upstairs that we weren't allowed to play with.
Straight up.
Star Wars. And it's only come to my knowledge after that conversation that we didn't even watch the Star Wars movie. We only had the lunchbox that we shared, and we pretended it was a TV, and we're coming up with ideas about what these Star Wars animated items, like characters, did. We
That's
didn't
way
even
cooler.
know. We didn't exactly. We're now in our 30s, and
Give or take.
and we're sitting there trying to recall all the events that we went through when we were kids. And he looked at me and said that he remembered that when my mom passed away, I was 9. He said he remembers telling his mom, "We gotta adopt this guy. We gotta take him in because it ain't gonna be cool if he's not allowed to play with the figurines and doing exactly what we did every day, even though we hated it." And now, classical music is some of our favorite things to do when we want to relax.
You and your siblings.
Our siblings. And this gentleman, Andrew Bonaparte. It was amazing to just even recall those events yesterday. I'm thinking to myself, that started, like that seed was planted so long ago, and the effects of it are still affecting me today. And that's why I'm like, you know what? Anything that I can put my kids into or just let them experience,
Yeah.
and I know it's going to be positive, I'm just jumping.
Just
I'm
go.
Just going with it. When it comes to the race card now, it's hard because I'm not racist. I can't be, like we discussed. It's just that I need to let them know that they have to be very happy being themselves. And despite the fact that people are going to look at them and call them names or, do the
Stop them from
stereotypical,
doing
all the
things.
stereotypical things. In a Christian light, you're going to just say, "Look, man, it's all right. can hate me for that, but I'm still fine being me, and I'm inclusive of you sharing an idea,
Yeah.
doing something as a human being. There's going to be lots of people that I would like to see them work with, and I hope that the common denominator is that they're all positive, they're all God-fearing, that they're all trying to beat and excel beyond their wildest dreams, any imagination ceiling, and having fun while they're doing it. I know they're going to face challenges, and I hope that they'll be able to recall or call on the resources that are so readily available to them,
Yeah.
and
Create
make
even
some
more.
even crazier headway
Yeah.
in this life. Because it doesn't make any sense that we're sitting around doing the status quo for the next 10 years.
It's something you mentioned. Sorry. Something you mentioned earlier. You said you grew up in an all-black school.
Yeah.
I was the exact opposite. I grew up in all-white schools.
Wow.
So I didn't see a significant number of black folks until university. Yeah, until I went to York University in '92. But the thing that struck me is that you said growing up around all black folks, a lot of those same stereotypes were there, and I didn't think that would happen. Me growing up around white folks, I thought, okay, they expect all these things of me, but it's just interesting to hear that, it was internalized amongst black population as well. So just an observation.
Yeah, it's a funny weight. It's like a...
That's a perfect word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the perfect word.
It's a weight.
Because it's not just, it's everywhere. Like how you said, Lowell grew up in an all-black school, but he still felt some of those, pressures. It just shows you that it's everywhere. If you go to the corner store and you glance at a couple magazines, then you're getting it. Like it's everywhere, and you can't really escape it. But we have to do our best to change what we can change as parents. You mentioned earlier watching a show with your kids, and then watch the show, but then you talk about the show. I think that's the best way to handle it, because then your kids go to school and they know the shows that other kids are talking about, but they're looking at it in a different way, And I don't know, that might be the best thing to do.
I'm actually really glad that we somehow ended up on the parenting topic. None of the other podcasts have been about parenting, and my kids happen to be here today, so it's really interesting. But I'm curious because you've got a boy, you've got...
One boy, two girls.
One boy, two girls.
2 girls, 2 boys.
Lots of kids.
Wow.
And so, I'm curious, as fathers, is there a different way that you approach parenting girls to boys and ages?
I don't even have a girl, but I know what I would be like as a father.
Tell us.
I'd be shotgun dad. Yeah. I'd be a shotgun father. Yeah.
He knows already.
Boy.
Jump all over that one, my friend.
There's a lot I could say about this. This is Kirk again. There's a lot I could say. I think I get in trouble if I really say what I want to say. But I don't want to parent my kids differently, but I do. I do parent them differently. I'm really not sure if it's because he's a boy and she's a girl, maybe. But I tend to think, I'd like to think that I parent my kids differently based on their personalities, and I do notice that I favor certain kids based on their personalities because, I think I'm more of a overprotective parent. So when you see your kid might have a certain disadvantage or lack skills in a certain area, then I try to, be the equalizer. And it's tough because I don't think you should. As a parent, I think it's best to step back and let them struggle through certain things, and that's the best way to learn. But bringing it back to sex, male and females, I just
Be honest.
I'm gonna pass that to Lowell.
But what's the thing, though? What's the thing? Is it you're thinking of your daughter and she's a big woman and you know how you thought when you were young? What's the thing?
The thing is, it's every father's dream to have a son.
Fair.
And it's every mother's dream to have a daughter. Typically.
Okay.
It depends on what family dynamic you had when you were a kid. Because if you had all brothers when you were growing up and you were the one sister, you might not mind having a son. You know what
I
mean?
wanted both.
Because you'll probably be able to understand both dynamics a lot more. Or at least you'll understand the brother because you'll be a woman.
Yeah.
Right? But when it comes to raising a daughter, I think it's unfair that we have to look at it this way. I think we have to understand that we're different. And you have to be different. You have to approach it differently. The way that you're going to talk about hygiene is going to be different. The introduction to puberty is going to be at a different time. It's just different, and I think we should understand that as opposed to being like, well, I'm going to be a bit more different to my daughter than my sons and stuff like that. What children, and we're talking about this, thank you, Andrew, again. What kids want to know is that you love them. That's it. And they will take the rest and they'll run with it because they'll have the confidence to know that daddy and mom are backing them no matter what. And yeah, they're going to have mistakes. They're going to make some errors.
It's the best part.
But
it is.
As long as they really get that their parents love them and the circles that they're in are
regardless of what's happening.
You have
but what we really want to know is, do you treat your girls different from your boys?
Yeah.
Which is yes.
Yeah, I do. Of course.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
No, I don't either. You know
Nothing wrong
what?
with it.
As a mom, I think so where is it different? Like, for instance, my son, he's like a big rollerblader. He's really serious, but he's great at it. But like hills are like heart attack central for me. Yeah. And so the other day there was like a really steep hill and daddy's not there. And I'm like, I can't tell him to take off his rollerblades and walk down. Like, that's irrational. I can't. All I can do is support the fact that he is definitely going to fall and I can be there to be like, you did it anyways. Good job. And so like, but knowing that my daughter is like, I don't want to go on rollerblades, and I'm like, girl, you don't have to. Like, it's okay. Then I'm wondering, like, am I wrong?
No.
Sometimes, or like,
No.
I didn't put her in football. She didn't really want to play football. She hasn't played hockey yet either. I played hockey all my life, so I don't know. Like, I feel like I try to balance it. Their personalities are very different, so of course we parent from that perspective. But then my kids are really close in age, so like, when you say, like, we do it differently, but like, like bedtime, like, they're a year and a half apart. Bedtime, like, y'all are going to bed at the same time.
Yeah.
You're going to go bathe in separate showers at the same time. You're going to do all these things at the same time. And like, I'm trying to like, balance out, when we have what came up the other day is the RAPE word.
Oh, wow.
And so
Jeez.
they must have heard it on the news. And so they're both like, what is this? And we try to have really open conversations. So I'm like, how do I explain this without it being a thing that, shapes them, but also knowing that a lot of the work that we edit ends up being women talking about being my daughter's age and being RAPED. I don't know why I'm spelling it right now. I'm sorry. I think I'm just used to doing that. He can spell now, so it's just silly. But like, so I'm like hyper vigilant, knowing that as a woman, the times that I was sexually harassed or RAPED were at younger times in my life. So I'm super vigilant with her. But then like, maybe I just haven't heard the stories of when boys were affected. Maybe I need to be more conscientious, and then the conversations around it with them is like, I gotta tell the truth, but then how much of the truth is too much of the truth, and which one of them do I tell more of the truth to?
That's a good question. I don't know. That's
I jump all over it. With the kids. From early, like 4 years old, we've been talking about almost anything.
Yeah.
And we usually wrap it around a story. So either it's a life experience story, or affecting someone else telling a story, or news article that came up, and we talk about it. When it came to rape, I talked about when I was young, there was a kid that was thrown in a dumpster, and it was a boy, and I came home and my mom told me he got raped, and I was like, well, what does that mean?
Yeah.
She's telling me I was I had to have been younger than 9 for sure.
Yeah.
And she's telling me that, and I'm like, well, how does that work? I mean,
Because there's so many questions now.
he doesn't have the female genitalia. Yeah, so
He doesn't have a vagina.
So-
But how does vagina and rape, like, it's the...
Exactly. So then it gives me the opportunity to be that person. I get to be proactive and talk about it before the schools start talking about it, or they start hearing about it from their friends.
Yep.
And
Or they experience it themselves.
Exactly.
That's the key. Sorry to interrupt, but you always gotta attack it or attack issues before the school gets to them and before their friends get to them.
Yeah.
Because what I found and what I think is that whenever a topic comes up first, whoever your child is getting information from first, that's what they're gonna believe first.
Right.
Just by nature. So if you're the second person coming in, they're gonna say, "Oh well, I don't know, because Johnny told me this."
True.
Yeah.
You know, they're always second guessing the second thing that they heard.
Yeah.
So you want to be the first, so you want to get to it a year early or whatever.
Yeah, definitely.
But then, do you find, like, okay, so 4, like, I mean, 4 is when, like, our serious questions really started coming up. Is your son asking big questions surrounding things?
Not in regards to that. He's more curious about men and women. Like, you know, where's mommy's penis is what he's asking. You know, does she pee from her bum? Like, these are the questions that he's asking. And he's going to kill me when he hears this later on. But yeah. So I find it's just being honest, and then, you know, mommy doesn't have a penis. And he's like, oh, okay. And then he's good, right? And then I guess in a few years he'll come back, you know, when you told me this, like, what does that mean? And then I'll have to just explain again. So, but what Kurt mentioned was right. It's about being the first influence. As a parent, I think that's of prime importance. You have to be the first influence for everything, right? You need to shape their worldview so that when they see dysfunction, they're like, oh, that's weird. Like, that's not the way things are supposed to happen, right? Mommy and daddy told me it's supposed to go like this, right? And yeah, I was just piggybacking off your point about parents being the first influence.
Yeah. Me and just talk again. Me and my wife have always tried to just attack things early, and she's amazing at that. Because there's times when she'll be talking to kids about something, or she'll bring it up in a group setting, and I'll look at her like, "What the hell? What are you talking about? You can't talk about that." Right, but in the end, she's always right, because she always gets to them when it's the first time they've heard it, and that's the key. Because and there's even books. I mean, well, my wife got a book from the pediatrician that talked about generally, you know, when kids are feeling certain things and what years they're thinking certain things, and you just get to them a year before that.
Yeah.
You know, and it really does help, because then your kid comes off like the mature one and the one that other kids at school want to get information from, because
They have the truth.
they have the experience.
But
right?
then how much of what we know about these things? Because, like, here's the thing that I grapple with all the time. I feel like I just barely became an adult. Like, I don't know when it happened, and I don't know when the transition happened, but, like, I can remember very clearly being parented myself, and, like, now realizing that my parents had just become adults too. And so, like, how much of what we know is predicated on things by people who don't totally know?
First of all, I'm not sure if I am an adult,
I'm not even sure
because
if I made it yet.
all I know is that it depends on where I am. Because when we go to my parents' house, my kids look at me like, "Daddy, what's wrong with you? Like, why are you acting like that?" And I'm looking at them like, "What do you mean? Like, that's Daddy and Mommy right there." I'm not even an adult anymore, so I don't even know.
It's true.
That actually speaks to a bigger issue. Within the black community, we really don't have a rites of passage. Like, take the Jewish community, for instance. They have, I think, a bar mitzvah, I think it's called, where there's a set point where a boy is no longer a boy and he's a man. 13 years of age, and that doesn't exist in the black community, generally speaking. Not here. So I think if things like that were implemented more, then, you know, someone who's 13 can start to think of themselves as a man and start behaving accordingly, right? A young man, obviously, but a man nonetheless. Or a woman.
Instead of, like, just have a point.
Because same thing, I don't know when I became an adult.
Yeah, like, was it when my brain formed?
It happened sometime. I couldn't pinpoint it though. So, yeah.
Right.
It's funny. It's funny you said the rite of passage. So we started a tradition with our first son. I guess it's kind of biased, but it's based on the fact that I felt that because I lost my mom at 9, that I was forced to become a man, some sort. Even though my parents were both together and whatnot, now my dad he's working, doesn't get to attend as much parent-teacher interviews and all those things. So you got to step up as a kid. So we just started doing that with the kids. So when they turn 9, mommy and daddy, we go out and we have a special dinner. We go get a suit tailored to them, and the whole process. And then we go out to dinner, and it's just mommy, the little one, and ourselves, and we talk about things that we're expecting to see them go through for the next year, some goals that they might have.
I love that.
And for the first one, obviously it's worked a bit more. We still have to. The thing is, you still have to be a bit more understanding that they're gonna fall a bit more, and the personalities are different.
Of course.
But you got to try. So we're working with that, and we're trying to see,
I love that.
how that can translate into something that we can do. Maybe it'll be our family tradition for
Ever.
the next generations to come. So
and knowing that when your sons and daughters have children and their children have children, I love it.
Right. That's right.
Sorry, I just lost my train of thought because I was really excited by that tradition. So my family is half Jewish and half Jamaican, and so we kind of grew up with like dual traditions. But the way that I see 13 is, yes, both of my children, there will be a bat mitzvah and a bar mitzvah, but I would actually like them to go and do a hike in Europe. It's like my mom just did it. It's called the Camino, and it's like, it spans through a few different countries, and you can of course walk for as long as you want, but I want them to take the 2 weeks, and for the first week we'll be with them, and then the second week they'll be on their own.
Wow.
I don't know how that will pan out, but I do think, like, one of the things that's been on my mind lately is, as a parent, I pray constantly that they're going to be safe all the time. And it just hit me the other day that, like, maybe that's not what I need to be praying for. Maybe I need to pray that, like, no matter what happens, we're always okay. Because we all know that when stuff hits the fan is when everybody really learns and grows. Like, that's the, like, I fell and hurt my knee, but now you know that you're never going to do it that way again. I touched the burner, now you know that you're never going to do that again.
Right.
So I'm like, if I ask that they never get injured, then they, like, all of a sudden they go off to university and
They become sheltered and fall for anything.
Right.
and I'm torn with it, but like lately, as we've been going rollerblading and scootering, I'm like, thank you that I can manage anything that happens, and thank you that they can manage any injury that they come across.
Right.
And I don't know, like, is that something that you guys?
Yeah. For me, it's about praying for the strength to deal with the problems that come up. Black children, unfortunately, are targeted. So it's not realistic to think, I hope he doesn't get targeted. That's just foolish thinking. But to be able to deal with that in a positive and constructive way is what I pray for, and it's about giving kids the tools to be able to do that. Yeah, exactly.
I know we don't like this guy right now, but Bill Cosby.
I don't know. I'm torn.
I like him.
The Bill we knew when we were kids.
The TV Bill.
Yes, good
What
point.
he was trying to portray on TV is the guy that I know, and because I don't know him outside of
We
that.
don't know him.
And what he was trying to portray on TV is ingrained in me for life. When the whole fiasco took place, it was hard because I'm sitting there thinking, all the values that this guy taught me, are they all in jeopardy right now, or should I just be, starting new?
It's weird that we contested it all, isn't it?
And
You didn't, Nick.
I was a bit different. When it all started, I knew they were just going to drag him through the dirt.
Yeah.
Whether it was real,
Or
true or
not.
false, it didn't matter. So I remember going to HMV and buying. Is HMV still around? Anyways, I remember going to HMV and buying. Well, yeah. At the time, it's all DVD.
Yeah.
So I bought all the Cosby Show DVDs.
Yep, me
Straight
too.
up.
Yep, all of them.
Because
All of
I
them.
figured at some point in the future they're going to ban this or something.
Yep.
So I said, let me have it. I can show it to my son when he gets older.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of where I was. Anyways.
Yeah. No. So, I mean, you have Bill Cosby that's teaching us these, these dynamics of what a family could be.
Yeah.
And
The
and
Huxtables
mo-
really did a good job.
And the funny thing is, those families exist like that. It's just that people are sitting around thinking that's only fictitious, which is why when we're talking about, you're an author right now. I'm trying to figure out what books are out there that I can, dream about being this black family that's doing everything. And then when I saw your comic book, I was like, you know what? This is exactly what we need. It's the start. It's the beginning of understanding. To this day, I don't know the difference between Marvel and what's the other one? DC? I'm stuck.
All you need to know is Black Sun Comics.
See? Black Sun Comics is now my Marvel and DC. See what I mean? So, and that's all that matters to me now, because like I can have somebody I can relate to. Like I understand the superheroes and the different.
And it's all cool.
Well, I'm like, what? Wolverine? Like I've always heard this. Wolverine acts like a black man or something, and I'm thinking to myself, huh? I don't know.
What does that even mean?
What does that mean? I'm like, he's got claws, and he's cutting up people.
Animal-esque? What is that?
I had no idea, and I was restricted from watching X-Men, so I didn't really get that, and I just don't get why. Okay, I know they're out there, and I'm glad that I even get to touch you and shake your hand and know that this is tangible, this is real, versus you got to go on Google and find the black authors and black comic developers and see where they are and order your book and whatnot. And I'm like, this for most people, this is just like, okay. For me, this is the beginning of so many more ideas that are coming, and I know you're going to expand on this. And what's crazy is that I can't wait to see issue 3, issue 4, volume 10. Like that's where I'm at right now, just based on the fact that I have a book in my hand.
Yeah.
I can turn the pages.
Yep.
It's not digital book. It's not an e-read. It's actual physical pressed paper, and I'm there, and I can touch it, and I can talk to the author. Like this is, and you're the illustrator as well.
Yeah.
I thought Illustrator was just something in Adobe Photoshop. You know what I mean? Like,
Like a person did it.
yeah, you know what I mean? So this is great. This is exactly what, forget just black kids. All kids need to know that you can dream and do these things, and you can, it's so attainable.
Yes.
With the way technology is right now, you can do so much more in a shorter span of time. And it's just amazing that, some people are just sitting around like, I can't do it, whatever the ceiling is. But it's refreshing. It's capping off my weekend right now. And I'm stoked to know that issue 3 is around the corner. You know what I mean?
Conversations with Kelvin.
It's
People harass him.
hey man, you're gonna get harassed. You're harassable right now.
The thing, so what I love the most, so I'm not a comic book lover at all, but when we read as a family almost every night, and when we read this book, what struck me the most was there is a real life emotionality about it that I feel like is missing the most when we're talking about black people in anything. It's like we're always unidimensional. Like we're just one way. We're like either this or we're that, or this or we're that. But this was very when he realizes that he's arrogant, I was like, OMG. Because that doesn't happen. That's not a thing that happens where we actually talk about like being emotionally literate, even for a second.
Yeah.
And emotional literacy, especially in our culture, is like, it will change everything because it's how we parent, it's how we navigate the world.
Yeah.
Well, wait till you read it.
Volume 3. I'm telling you.
I appreciate all of that. I'm so humbled right now. That it feels good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's
So,
super real.
yeah, it's about characters who are just more than one-dimensional, just as you're saying. So yeah, thank you so much.
So, do you feel like we've said all that you want to be said? Do you feel like...
Yeah, it was a great conversation. Like, I mean, I was stumped at the beginning. Like, I don't know what I'm going to talk about, but then it just kind of flowed, and it was great that I could connect with other fathers of children who are older than mine, and kind of see what lies ahead and all the other things.
Insanity. So I've been starting most of the podcast off with this quick little story. That in my last year of university, in a Caribbean studies class, we're all sitting down and our professor comes in and he says, did I tell you the story yet?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, it's on every podcast, so everyone listening is like, oh my god, I heard this before. That's okay. I'm a mom. I feel like I repeat everything. That's just what it is. So he comes into class and he says, look, I want you to write an essay about something that's on your mind, make it as long as it needs to be to prove your point, and hand it in when it's ready.
Yes, I did hear this story. Yes, I remember.
And so I was like, cool. Like, that concept was like fantastic to me. But the rest of the class, you know what, I probably am included with them. This might be hindsight. So one person says, great, Professor, I love the assignment, but what is it that we write about? And he was like, whatever you want to write about. She's like, okay. Someone else is like, that's awesome. But how long does it need to be? He's like, as long as it needs to be to prove your point. And then one more person puts up their hand and they're like, when is it due? And he takes a chair and he whips it across the room. And he's like, free your mind! And it really was this dramatic. Like, if you can, and it's a small space, like, we're all like, oh god. I checked on him for a few weeks after this moment. But the point was, and every time I check on him, he's like, Sheena, free your mind. Everything we do in society is always constructive. It's time for people to think for themselves and free their minds.
That's true.
And so 10-10-10 is partially based on this concept of an author who has created something out of nothing from the heavens to be able to have a platform whereby they can share more of that creativity and have conversations with other people who have created something out of nothing. So I want to say that I'm fully honored to have been able to be a part of a conversation with some creators who have created something out of nothing. I am honored and humbled to spend time around fathers who get to show their babies how to create things out of nothing. So thank you, Kelvin.
Oh, thank you.
For joining us. Thank you, Lowell and Kurt, who's off cutting. Thank you very much for the opportunity to even be present in a space like this. Listeners, thank you for joining us for 10-10-10. Today is day 6 of our 10 days. We're at Onyx Barbers. We're with Kelvin Gumbs, author of Black Sun, The Longest Night, owner of Black Sun Comics and Black Sun Publishing.
BlackSunComics.com.
BlackSunComics.com. Do tell them one more time.
BlackSunComics.com.
Where can they, so that's where they can find your book?
That's where they can find the book. That's where they can find all my social media links. If you are interested in creating comics yourself, I have an online course that you can sign up for, where you can learn all that kind of stuff. It's a YouTube channel, so it's all there. BlackSunComics.com, and you'll find everything.
Thank you. And where can people find Onyx Barbers?
Onyx Barbers, obviously on onyxbarbers.com. It's so funny how Google works. You can Google anything.
I find myself being facey, like, there's this thing called Google?
Yeah.
That's
so
rude.
Cool. But onyxbarbers.com. Our Instagram is at Onyx Barbers. Also, our Facebook and Twitter is also at Onyx Barbers.
ONYX. Yes.
Yes. Yes. And we're at 219 Yonge Street. So at Young and Shooter, or preferably Young and Queen.
Yep. Yep.
And
downstairs,
right next door to Ritz Caribbean Restaurant, which is also a very good black establishment.
Yes, it is.
And they serve the best jerk chicken.
So this has been Sheena Blake from DDP. Thank you guys so much for listening to Real Conversations on Author's Corner. Peace and blessings. We will catch you tomorrow. Thank you so much for listening. This has been Author's Corner, DDP's podcast. Make sure you subscribe and you share and you tell a friend, like up close and personal, tell a friend. Make sure you let all of your author friends know, and if you happen to be an author, make sure you reach out. We'd love to hear from you. This is your soapbox. Okay, we'll catch you next time. Peace and blessings.